18. Let me just fix it. All right. Hey, sweet. Thanks for tuning in for another team huddle. Super excited about this one. Actually, going to get a little bit active. Maybe we'll see. Hopefully, I'll hurt myself. Yeah. So today's team huddle, PLYOS and power training. I know one of the common themes or common common features questions that come up about athlete training right now during the isolation is maintaining the power. Obviously, everyone talks about getting stronger, but from a coach's perspective, being strong, at least for team sports, being strong only gets you so far, right? You've got to be able to transfer and translate that strength into the power, into the movements that you're doing on the field. And actually picked this up yesterday from another webinar, but you've got to translate that strength into what another coach referred to as your competitive movement, right? That squatting or pressing in a weight room, it looks great, but you've got to be able to translate it into what that pressing or squatting looks like in your actual sport. And so I think as a coach, I've really felt that, for the athletes that lost access to a weight room, there's a slight advantage there that they're gaining, because it's in some ways forcing them, but it's allowing them to focus and spend more time on controlling their body, not controlling some other external piece or tool or gadget or whatever, whether it's a bar, dumbbell, kettlebell, you name it. And so obviously, today's topic, today's discussion, the PLYOS and other power training with, just body or body weight are ways that you can kind of help translate or transfer that strength or that weight room, development into or onto the field. So a couple of key things though, right? Things that you have to be cautious of or should be careful with before you get too deep into it. One is, I think we said this before, is understand what the purpose is and how you're going to get there. So for example, if we're talking about, be able to jump higher and increase your vertical, whatever, that doesn't mean that you go out and just do, sets of 10, 12, 30 seconds of jumps, right? Yeah, you're doing a lot of jumping, but that's a prime example of, people thinking more is more. And with this, think less is more, right? Fewer reps, lower volume, but better quality movement is going to at least assist in better development, better progress. So, a lot of times think PLYOS or body weight power movement. If you think similar to like Olympic lifts, you're going to be doing, maybe just sets of 3 or 4, 5 at the max, depending on what the exercise is, but you're not going to be going for, sets of, 8, 10, 12, whatever. If you are doing that, if you're doing, jumps and 8 reps or sets of 8 to 12 reps, well, you're probably getting more into conditioning, than anything else. And so if that's your target, if that's your goal, hey, great. But, just don't mix the two. Something else too is, because plyometrics especially, they're meant to be done quick, meant to be done explosive, right? You're generating a lot of force. That means you're also having to absorb a lot of force. The higher you're jumping, the harder you're hitting the ground or you're coming down on the landing. So make sure that you control it in the movement that is in a very safe manner. Don't, as they say, don't build your house on a weak foundation, right? If your technique is bad, but then you're trying to apply more force and more reps to it, then you might be setting yourself up for bigger issues down the road. So just be cautious of that, right? And in all other things, especially this, make sure that safety techniques on point, that you're managing and being aware of those things. But kind of moving on from that, I mean, some things that you can do, right? If big thing that I always emphasize with athletes is think upper body power as well. I think a lot of times that gets overlooked. That a lot of individuals just completely forget about. The upper body has to or needs to be able to move quickly and generate force and absorb a lot of impact at the same time, right? I always kind of use the example of like a stiff arm, a fend off in contact sports, football, rugby, even basketball to a certain extent, being able to kind of block out, keep your separation. Those types of sports, soccer, especially if you're trying to fend off a defender or attacker you're trying to get in. Upper body's got to be able to kind of generate and also withstand force as well. So a lot of times, there are full body movements, if you're thinking like a squat thrust, something like that's kind of a combination, but you can also kind of separate it out a little bit to where you can kind of focus more on upper body specific power as well. So since that's probably the least thought of, I mean, we can kind of address that one first. I think, again, if we're talking more towards an athlete that has no other equipment at home, or anything like that, I think the easy example of upper body power would just be, a clap push-up, right? Just being able to drive off the ground, create separation between your hand and the floor. And it doesn't even have to be a clap. In fact, in some cases, or actually more recently, I've actually tried to shy away from the actual clap, just because, I mean, one, all you're trying to do with the clap is just confirm, that your hands have left the ground. When I've actually seen, the actual clap become more of a risk because players just can't get their hands back down and unstable. They're not able to kind of control that quick movement back. So just going to a power, I just call it a power push-up. So you're pushing off the floor or off the bench, whatever it is that you're using. That way you're still accelerating that upper body movement, right? Same as if you're doing a fend off or push off or offensive lineman getting a block, something like that. So that's a good example there. Also, the good thing about the power push-up, right, is everything with from the trunk and the midsection, the torso has to stay stable. If there's any sort of lag in there, if you kind of worm or peel your way off the floor, that's actually it's what you would refer to as an energy leak, right? But the more rigid you can keep everything here, right? I guess it's the same as pushing against a piece of plywood versus pushing against a piece of cardboard, right? Plywood's going to be more stable, more rigid, right? So it's able to absorb more of that force, whereas the cardboard, less stable, less rigid, right? So when you push, it's just going to kind of fold in. Same thing with your body. If all this is rigid right here, right, then you'll get a lot more cleaner acceleration and quality of movement throughout that, right? So that's an easy one there. Ways that you can mix that up a little bit. Actually, a good one I kind of nicked off of a colleague, Robbie Lavery, working over at the time. He was with Scottish Institute of Sport, but he did a drop push-up, right? So I'll actually, hopefully you don't get motion sick here. We'll get down on the level, all right? So the drop push-up, right? You think like a drop jump. So you're dropping into that bottom of the push-up and then transitioning and exploding out of that, right? So kind of go here, hands can start in tight, right? And then you just pop the hands up, catch here at the bottom, all right? So that's one way to kind of ease into it, right? It's just that catch movement right there, okay, the eccentric part of the movement. But then if you want to, again, work on that transfer, that translation of the energy back up, then you just add the power push-up, Okay, so power push-up being there, right? You add the drop with the power, so it's being able to return that energy back up, right? Just adds a whole nother level of difficulty or intensity to it. So that's something else that you can do, again, for upper body power, upper body plyometrics, right? And I know there's a lot of folks out there say they're doing plyometric work or plyometric exercises, but something to be cautious of. This is where it's really important to make sure you're getting the maximal return. Is that the true definition of plyometrics is a quick return, right? So the longer I spend down here before I can transfer back, I'm actually losing the effect of that exercise. All right, same thing with a jump too. If I spend too much time down here, what a lot of textbook, a lot of coaches refer to the stretch shortening cycle, that elastic stretch of the muscles, kind of the rubber band effect. The longer I sit at the bottom, the more I lose that elastic effect or elastic response. So that's where one of the big mistakes I see a lot of folks make is that they say they're doing power or plyometric exercises, but they're not able to return it quickly enough. And so it's not true plyometric to true power training. So something to be cautious of, right? If you notice that it's just taking you too long to accelerate back out, then you might need to kind of change it up. Maybe it's just kind of do more catching, or maybe you just shorten the movement a little bit to where you can still get that return. Upper body stuff, otherwise, what you can do, change up your hand position. Right, you can go to something that we use if you do happen to have like a single weight or a med ball. You just go into single arm stuff. So we've done the landmine throws. Actually, set it up real quick. All right, so the landmine throws here, right, and then just getting it there. So it's just a way to get single arm action with that movement. And then as far as lower body goes, right, lower body is going to be about the same. So, obviously you can do the jumps. This is good. Basketball players or rugby, especially second rowers, right, line out jumpers, even back row, right? Do that same thing we did with the drop push up, but do that with your jumps, okay, to help increase or improve that speed off the ground, so you can beat the opposition in that line out jump. So again, you can go with a drop squat, right, just catching here, and again, this is kind of building the base for that movement. Be able to control the force at the bottom, right, or the momentum there. Okay, you can step off a 6-inch box or something like that, right? The higher you're dropping, bigger distance that you're falling, obviously there's more force, more momentum you're going to have to catch, which is important, which is critical. Okay, but then again, you can change that to kind of the drop jump or the depth jump to where you're coming, all right, and then getting off the ground, right? And again, kind of returning that momentum, right? Trying to maximize that elastic effect of the stretch shortening cycle, technical term, right? And again, just starting to kind of evolve your training from true strength into more power development. So other than that, single body, single leg stuff with the lower body as well. Right, so if you want to go single leg, okay, prop up your back leg, right, and just go with single leg jumps there. Obviously, we've highlighted the skate jumps, right, working on the lateral movement, and then a series of other jumps as well. So that's the big thing, right, for plyos and power for athletes, especially making sure that you're incorporating that into into your regular routine. I think it's key. You don't have to spend an entire workout session drip feed it in. Maybe 3-4 sets at the very beginning of your work, just so you're still touching on it, right? Because like so many other things, I mean, power is one of those things, use it or lose it, right? So whatever you had developed, you want to make sure that you're continuing to at least remind the body of how to respond whenever it wants to, or whenever you need it to move in that way. So I know that's a lot, but at least got to get a little bit active on this one, move around. If you have any thoughts, ideas, questions, comments, suggestions about incorporating power or plyometrics into your routine, especially as the isolation continues, how you can utilize body weight or what you have at home to incorporate this kind of stuff. Again, as always, leave a comment, send us a direct message, email universalsportstrength@gmail.com. We'll be happy to answer any questions, check out a video, review technique, anything like that, or set up a call to talk through things. All right. Again, I think this is a great time for athletes to kind of break the dependence on needing equipment to develop this stuff. Being able to focus more on being able to control and move your body specifically. I think this is a great time for that. And obviously plyometrics and body weight power movements are great ways that you can do that. So again, hope that you get something out of it. If you have any other questions, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out, sign up for our newsletter, going out 3 times a week, right? 12 high performance habits, our train better, move better activities or exercises. And then of course our workout recommendations, workout routines going out once a week. And check those out. And then also we've got our exclusive kilograms to kilometers squad, right? For the athletes that we're working with and only our strongest supporters. So if you want some extra help on, or if you want to get additional resources on, how to improve recovery, your training, nutrition, recipes, those types of things, even your mindfulness and mental, improving the mental game, hit us up about joining that group as well. So thanks again. Thursday, next team huddle, right? We'll talk about strength and in particular with body weight, how you can develop and evolve that again as this period continues. So as always, hope that everybody's doing well, staying safe, staying healthy, and keep grinding.